Hi folks, my perspective here. And to get the ball rolling, pun intended, a couple in Amsterdam went to a travel agency and bought some tickets for a travel package to Australia, Sydney. But instead of going to Sydney in Australia, the travel agent put them on a flight to Sydney, Nova Scotia in Canada. So this is what the expectations were of the harbour in Sydney. This beautiful bridge. And this is what the reality was, the Sydney River in Nova Scotia, Canada. So whose fault is it? The travel agent or yours? You see, you can go back to the travel agent and say, well, I didn't get what I paid for, so I want my money back. And the travel agent says, well, can you tell the difference? Can you? So it's your fault because you didn't pay attention. You didn't look at the detail. You didn't look carefully enough. So you'd say, well, this is impossible. I would never make the same mistake because I know what clues to look for. You see, this is the real deal in Australia with the Sydney Opera House in the background. An awesome bridge, and it's massive. So you'd say, well, this is not me. But could it be that you are making a mistake just as serious as this when it comes to the footage that we see from high altitude balloons? So the internet is full of video footage of the high altitude balloons. Could it be that you're just not looking properly? You see, many people look at this and say, well, there's the ball Earth. They're not looking at the clouds. Look at the shadows on those clouds. Look at the sun, the position of the sun. Look at the hotspot and how the Earth sways with the sun. Pay attention. Look at the shadows. Look at the Earth underneath and the perspective of the clouds. These all tell us something. The movement of the sun with the hotspot on the Earth, and as the camera swings and sways, how the sun moves in perfect relationship to the Earth. So does the moon. The fact that you see the moon and the sun in many of these video clips both above the horizon, in the same position above the horizon, at the same time. You're not looking at the land properly because these images show a flat Earth. So the first bit we have to ask ourselves, if you release a balloon, a tiny balloon, a lightweight balloon with a lightweight camera, is it possible that this balloon can spin with the Earth if the Earth is spinning at 1,600 kilometers? And this balloon would have to pick up speed because the higher it goes, the faster it would have to travel. And this balloon can travel at over 500,000 kilometers an hour as the Earth spins around the sun. Do you think this is possible? So if you release a balloon 6 o'clock in the morning, sunrise, that balloon will move away from the Earth as the Earth spins around the sun, travels around the sun at over 500,000 kilometers. And at sunset, the balloon will just simply move away from the Earth but travel at the same speed. When you look at this footage, there's no spin in the Earth. Do you think this balloon is traveling at over 500,000 kilometers in outer space? The second issue we're going to look at is axes. You see, the balloon has three axes. It has an x-axis that will move the camera, swing the camera backwards and forwards. It has a y-axis that will spin the camera, and it has a z-axis that will make the camera swing left and right. So as the balloon goes up, all of these three axes together, will have a motion. And that's what we're looking at when we look at the footage from these hot air balloons. And this is what the footage is and what it shows. Look how the sun moves with the earth. It even as the camera rotates, the light rays keep its position with the earth. And so does the moon. So if I have a camera, you see, now let's analyze this. Let's isolate the axes. So we're first going to look at the x-axis. That will cause the camera to swing backwards and forwards. And if I have a plane with a sun and a hot spot above it, directly above it, and I have a sun just a few centimeters away in this illustration, this is what the camera would see as the x-axis rotates. The camera will swing backwards and forwards. So the sun at the back cannot keep its same position with the hot spot. That's impossible. So as the camera swings backwards and forward, the sun at the back would dip below the horizon. Remember, this sun at the back is supposed to be 150 million kilometers away. Now, if we isolate the y-axis, the camera will spin around in 360 degrees. Right, so what would this look like from the camera's angle? Well, you see, the sun in the hot spot would not be able to maintain its position. The sun further back would be swinging wildly because it's 150 million kilometers away. And then the z-axis, as the camera swings left and right, as the balloon spins and rotates, well, you'll see that the sun closer above the hotspot will keep its position, and the sun at the back cannot maintain that same perspective and position. And if we put all the axes together, the motion, that's what we're getting from these high altitude balloon shots and these images, the sequences. And from the Earth, and from your perspective, the camera perspective, the sun is moving with the Earth because it's above the Earth. That's its position in 3D space. You see, a sun further back cannot move and it maintain its position with the Earth. It's simply impossible. Now have a look at this again. Now look, and look carefully. See, when the camera swings and sways, look at the position of the sun above the Earth and look at the hot spot. That's because the sun is above the Earth. How is this possible if we are living on a ball? So next we're going to look at the shadows. You see, if the sun was 150 million kilometers back, well, it's a ball. You'd be on the dark side. You see, if the camera's there and the sun is above the ball, the sun would be behind the horizon and the hot spot would be behind the Earth. The light would be in the back side of the Earth, away from the camera, and this side of the Earth, the camera side, would be in total darkness because the sunlight's shining directly in your face. So if we straighten that horizon, because all we are seeing is the curve of the camera lens, look at the perspective in the clouds and the land. The land is flat. Look at the rivers. Look how the camera spins. Look at the motion of the land. It's flat. The sun and the moon are both above the horizon because the Earth is flat and the sun and the moon are above the flat Earth. This is proof, visible proof. And if you look at it, it tells you the Earth is flat. This is undeniable. So all you're seeing is the curve of the lens. So now look at the shadows of these two clouds. Look at the angle of the shadows, right? See where that is? Now look at the shadows of this cloud. Where's the sun? Look at the perspective in the clouds. Now, although being flat, they're three-dimensional, and look at the perspective of the land. They're two different angles, and they merge in a vanishing point. And when we look at the shadows, the sun is above the clouds. You see, this is not possible if the earth was a ball. Remember, the sun is directly in front of you. So if this was a ball, it should be totally black. The earth should be in total darkness, because the shadow of the earth will be blocking out the sun. Now, if we do the same axis and we separate the axes, and the camera spins above a ball earth, so there's the sun with a hotspot, and the balloon and the camera all spinning together. So the camera spinning in 360. What would the camera see? Well, the ball earth cannot maintain its position in front of the camera. So you'd see the one side of the ball, and as the camera rotated around, and the sun 150 million kilometers away would be swinging, would be moving at a phenomenal speed. It would actually be blurry. The sun cannot maintain its position above the hotspot as the camera rotates. Right? This is simple enough. Evidence that it's not a ball. Because on a flat surface, you see, if the camera rotates above a flat plane, then the horizon would stay in view of the camera lens 360 degrees. That's the only way it's possible. And even if you add a distortion, a lens distortion, that's what you're seeing. See how the land actually spins almost like it's moving, like a car wheel? And as the lens bobs up and down, the land distorts. This is what you're seeing. The lens, the distortion of the lens is all that is happening. But this perspective in Z space from you back in the distance is what you're seeing. And if it was a ball, this is what the camera would look like as it rotates the x-axis. The hotspot cannot keep its same position. If the sun was 150 million kilometers away. Do you understand that? The hotspot couldn't stay in the same place. It would move. So the hotspot stays in the same place because the sun is above the land. That is its position. When we put all these factors together, we put all these clues together, we see that what you're seeing is a flat earth with a lens distortion. From the perspective of the camera lens, as the camera swings around, the distortion of the lens just simply causes the plane to distort. But the perspective from the camera in Z space further back stays the same. You see, you can't distort this, because if it was a ball, the horizon would be truncated. So look again. Look at the movement of the sun as the camera swings and sways and wobbles and spins. The sun can only maintain that same position above the earth if it is above the earth. Now look at this footage. Look at the three-dimensional shape of those clouds. This is important. Remember that. And as the camera turns, now look at this. Look at the hotspot. So where is the sun? So don't look at this as a flat image. You're looking in 3D space. A light source and a landmass in front of you that is thousands of kilometers in the distance. So in your mind, separate it to what it should be, and then you'll see it clearly. There's the sun, right? There's the land. The hotspot is under the sun, directly under the sun. So if you could fly in space and you could fly around, that's what you would see. The sun is above the earth, because there's a hotspot and you still have all that land behind the hotspot, and it's all flat. You see, we are living on a flat plane. The earth is not a ball. And just look as the camera swings, look at the hotspot and the sun. See how it maintains its same position? Because the sun is above the flat earth. If this is a ball, this entire earth would be black. The hotspot would be behind the ball. Now watch as the camera swings. Look at the shadows of the clouds and the shadow of the hotspot. Tells you where the sun is. It's above the earth. Remember, in this, if the hotspot is here, the sun should be 150 kilometers above your head. And watch this as the camera swings. Watch how the sun maintains its same position. Look at that. Look at it in slow motion. Do you see the sun? This is footage, time lapse of an aeroplane. Now watch the hotspot on the wing of the aeroplane, and the sun is setting, and the camera takes off, and the pilot and the plane takes off. Did you see where the sun was? And when the plane took off, the sun is still above the clouds. And now this is time lapse. Now the sun is going to set. Now we're going to slow it down. Now watch the sun is simply moving away from the aeroplane. The sun simply gets smaller and smaller. The sun isn't setting, it's moving away from the aeroplane. And there it just gets smaller. Watch the hot spot on the aeroplane wing. And now all you're left with is the glow from the sun as it moves away. Because the sun is moving above a flat earth. The plane lands and the glow is still in the night sky. So, if the earth was spinning, that's what they're telling you. The sun is 150 million kilometers away, 95 million miles. Immediately as the earth spun, immediately the land would become dark and black underneath you. You would still see the sun, and only when the plane landed would the sun disappear. Do you understand that? But what we're seeing is the plane takes off, the sun moves away and gets smaller and smaller, and the light moves away from the plane. And the evidence of that footage shows this. Earth is flat. Then the plane lands, and you still see the glow from the sun. That's what you're seeing in that video footage. You see, we've been taught from a small boy. We've got expectations. You invest all your effort in learning, going to school, or you invest your money in your education, and this is what you get instead. It's a drag racing, cheap and nasty. That's what our education system is. So people will say, well, what difference does it make if the earth is flat or if it's a ball? See, does it make a difference? Really? You don't mind being lied to and being deceived? Now we're going to look at some images from NASA. They're supposed to show the International Space Station moving over the earth. Now remember these clouds? Remember the three-dimensional form of these clouds with the shadows? And if you have a light source, the clouds will be black. And look at the clouds. The earth is lit up. And look at the lightning. Do you see that this is mindless rubbish? This is real lightning. This is what it looks like. See, don't buy the NASA cheap tickets. This is the real thing. This is the real deal. This is Sydney, Australia. This is Sydney, Nova Scotia. Do you understand? Look at the lightning. I mean, it's just pathetically stupid. It's so weak and it's just bad. Look at the green glow on the clouds. Now this is an aeroplane traveling, and look at the lights. See how the land distorts? The lights can't travel at the same speed. Things far away can't travel at the same speed as things in front of you. It's called perspective. In NASA stuff, the lights all travel at the same speed. You see, these are cheap tickets from NASA. And this is totally pathetic. Remember, the sun is supposed to be 150 million kilometers away. So when the sun rises, the earth will be black, dark, because the sun's directly above the horizon. And when the sun rises, how can it light up put a blue lighting onto the space station? Because that blue color comes from the atmosphere. The space station is supposed to be in space. And how can it bend around the earth, the light from the sun? You see, if this is real, why is NASA faking it? Because we've been lied to. The media and NASA, Hollywood and NASA, it's the same junk. They're deceitful people. So, do you still think it doesn't matter if the earth's a ball or a flat plane? What have you bought into? Your life. You paid your life for the ball earth, and you still say it doesn't matter? You see, when they say it doesn't matter, it's because you and I don't matter. We just cannon fodder, workhorses for the system. They don't care if they lie to us and rob us. Now NASA releases this image of the planet Pluto, and they got the cheek to laugh at us because we've been so dumbed down. So do you still think it doesn't matter that they're deceiving us? Do you still think it doesn't matter? And when they finally send an image to say that they've discovered water on Pluto, and they show you this image, and you still say, we're being lied to, we're being deceived, and it doesn't matter. You see, you can take something back from NASA and from the people who rule the system, and that's your dignity. They don't have to give it back to you. Take it back and tell them, listen, we know you're lying to us, so get away from us. They're despicable, wicked people who are abusing us and deceiving us. Take your dignity back. So cheers, and thanks for watching.